Bessel van der Kolk, who's one of the biggest experts in trauma work and trauma care, says that the traits of a self-resistant person is that you look for that personal sense of control. You need to pursue personally meaningful tasks. So, you know, whatever your work might be, whatever you focus your energies on, it really needs to have some meaning if you're going to thrive and survive in the work. The obvious is that you have to have healthy lifestyle choices. You know, do you eat right? Do you exercise? Are you relaxing? Do you avoid harmful substances? I don't mean like you have to be a teetotaler, but, you know, not overindulging in substances that are going to make your life more miserable in the big picture over time. What kind of environment are you creating and putting yourself in? You know, do you, just a simple thing is like, do you listen to the news at 11 o'clock at night before going to bed and sort of inundating yourself with a bunch of stuff that you can't control that's all negative, terrible news? Or do you read some soothing, spiritual, or interesting stories? And, you know, what are you doing? What do you put around you in your environment? And I want to spend a little time, like you guys all know what's healthy diet, you know, but it's important that you take the time to really sustain yourself with healthy eating habits. Exercise is real key, and I want to do a couple things with you, just real simple, to give you a little taste about some things that you could do at work. You can do it pretty much anywhere. So push your chairs back so you can do this a little bit. And I'm going to give you some cues. So one of the first things is if you're overwrought, you're wired and tired, any kind of forward bending is really helpful. But it's real helpful if you work with the breath. The breath is life energy, literally. It's the first thing that defines you as alive when you have that cry and you start breathing, aha, you're alive. And it's the last thing that defines you as alive or dead when you take that last breath. So you really want to pay attention to the breath. So we're going to start with just paying attention to the breath for a minute. And you can either soften your eyes or close the eyes, whatever's comfortable. And just notice your breathing. This is the mindfulness, you know, just paying attention. Hey, how are you breathing today? So is your breathing shallow or deep? Is it easy and free, or is there a sense of it being a little blocked or a little stuffy? And then just begin to kind of shift your awareness into deepening the breath. And bring your attention down to the belly. Keep the belly very soft. You're not trying too hard. But as you breathe in, allow the belly to expand, like you're blowing into the balloon from bottom to top, back to front, side to side. And as you exhale, let the belly relax back to the spine. So soft belly, soft breath. Just a couple breaths like that. Continuing to breathe from the belly, shift your awareness into the chest region. And as the belly fills, let the air move up into the lungs, the chest, and feel how the ribs will expand, the chest will widen a bit. And as you exhale, feel how the ribs come closer together, chest will narrow, belly comes back to spine. So automatically your breathing's becoming slower, smoother, steadier. Keep it very subtle, not trying too hard. Continuing to breathe from the belly to the chest, bring awareness to collarbones and shoulders, and actually feel the collarbones and shoulders lift and broaden as the breath goes up into the most upper regions of the body. And as you exhale, let the collarbones and shoulders just relax back down, chest will narrow, belly comes back to spine. Couple full breaths. One more. Return to your normal breathing. And just notice, is there any changes at all in your body? Any changes at all in terms of how your energy feels or your emotional state? Is the mind a little quieter, a little more clarity, a little more focus? Just what's there? Could be totally different reactions. Just notice. And then open the eyes. So let's just talk about that for a minute. Did people experience any shift just from working with the breath at all? No changes?
Later, more relaxed.
Yeah. If you practice breathing like this consistently, like every day, a few times a day, this lowers blood pressure. It slows down the heart rate. It settles the amygdala so that you can think more clearly. You'll be able to put together your thoughts in a smarter way, a clearer, more organized way. And so doing something as simple as paying attention to the breath. When I'm in a traffic jam, when I'm in a grocery store and the line is really long, I can get frustrated and say, go, 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 like, come on, can't you move? Which is making my breathing more shallow, I'm getting more stressed, or I can stand there, ground through my feet, and breathe like this, and it will make a difference in my state of being. And it doesn't make the grocery store line move any quicker, but my attitude's a whole lot better by the time I get through that line. Nobody sees it, nobody knows. It took less than 2 or 3 minutes to do what we just did. I use things like red lights. Just little, I go for answering the phone. My password, I don't care if you know my password, help yourself to my phone messages, it's breathe. It takes a long time to punch out breathe, and it reminds me, breathe, And the more I have these little touchstones of reminders to do that, the more it's an accumulative thing where you relax yourself. So, another thing, as you breathe in, sort of lengthen, fill the body. As you exhale, we're going to constrict. So just a gentle forward bend. So inhaling, lift. Nice full breath, and exhale. Just fold, nice and easy. Just kind of hang here. And then just breathe, real nice and easy. Doesn't take long. Breathe into the lower back. Breathe into the belly a bit. Relax the eyes. Soften the jaw. And then just press your feet down a little bit, and as you inhale, draw in the abdominals and come back up. Vertebrae by vertebrae, come back up into a seated posture. Did you notice any effects from doing that? How did that impact how you feel? Yeah?
I feel how tight my shoulders are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times when we quiet ourselves or do something like this, then it actually brings up like how much tension we're carrying that we don't even know. But as soon as you soften like that, the folding in has a calming effect. It will always have a calming, quieting effect. So, just going home and doing something simple like, sitting with a chair and just putting your forehead on the chair, on the seat of the chair with your legs underneath, or doing a full forward bend if you're capable of that. If you have knee problems, you should bend the knees a little bit. Or just a standing, where you just like hang like this. That will bring that effect around. So let's try just a couple more things. Sit a little more on the edge of your chair. Say, for instance, you're really, exhausted, you're drained. Just inhale the arms up, lean back, open through the heart, and just stretch. And when you're ready, exhale and bring the arms back down. Let's do that a couple more times. Inhaling, swing the arms back, opening through that heart center. Relax the neck, relax the head, and exhale. Arms back down. One more time. Nice, easy stretch. Really comfortable, loose, and exhaling. So what did you notice about that? Any energy? Yeah. This is where we carry responsibilities. If you're into mind-body work, the shoulds of our lives. And so the more you move, as we age, there's a fluid called synovial fluid in our bodies, and we get arthritis. How you're creaky and all the you wake up in the morning and you creak all the way to the bathroom. That's because we don't create synovial fluid in our bodies, but as we age, once we're adults. But if you make loose, fluid movements, you're actually creating synovial fluid in the body that flushes out those areas of the body that have that buildup of the toxins in the joints. And hopefully you found that a little bit, are you a little bit more awake, a little bit more invigorated? Yeah, you know, simple thing. But anytime you're doing something to open through the heart region, you're going to have more energy. Now another real simple thing, we're going to do a chair twist. So now I want to warn you about twists. When you do twists with the spine, people tend to lead with their heads. And what you want to do is think from pelvis, navel, sternum, shoulders. We're moving from the base vertebrae up. So you want to inhale, so you create a little space through the vertebrae, get nice and tall, and then twist from pelvis, navel, sternum, shoulders, okay? So inhale up, bring your right hand to the right side of the chair, left hand to right knee, and as you exhale, gently twist from pelvis, navel, sternum, shoulders. Chin comes last. And just nice stretch here. Inhale, come back to center. Inhale again, and exhale. Left hand to the left side of the chair, right hand to the left knee, and gently twist. Only go as far as is comfortable for you. Draw that belly in, inhale, come back, and release. Twists are very interesting because if you're tired and exhausted, they'll energize you. If you're overly wired and sort of frenetic, they'll calm you. So twists are a real simple thing to do that will bring balance to the body. It affects the flow of information between the hemispheres of the brain, so you have a more even exchange of information. So you're using the whole brain more constructively. Does all kinds of wonderful things. And you're massaging, like both when we were doing the forward bend as well as twist, you're massaging abdominal organs to improve your digestive system, and it strengthens the back. One last thing I'm going to show you, and I'm not going to ask you to do it, but something I really recommend you all do at home when you get home tonight is inverted poses. And a real simple one is just to get your knees at the edge of the chair. Here, I'm going to do it this way so you can see. You can get a pillow underneath the hips, so something under here, a pillow under the head, and just lay down like this, and it's instantly, you'll just have this feeling. To get out of it, you can lay here a long time like this, and I'll explain the benefits in a minute. To get out, you draw the knees in, roll to the side, and then come up, and you won't have injuries. If you have health issues, you might want to make sure to have a chair or something next to you to help yourself get back up. But the inverted poses reverses the flow of the circulation. So it calms the nervous system, it feeds the heart, it bumps up the immunity system, and it's feeding the brain. So it's an amazing restorative practice to do those kinds of things. So little healthy things that you can do throughout your day can make an amazing difference in your energy. And then last but not least, we want to have a lot of social support. It's the relationships with others that buffer us as we have to deal with difficult situations. Another thing that's simple that you can do, and you can do it here at work, you can do it at home, you can do it anywhere, is really attending to your environment. Do you consciously choose to have beauty, sounds, like water or quieting music, smells, like a simple thing is having some nice scented hand creams around you, or like those, I can't think of what they're called, but like those incense vases that you can turn the sticks that carry the aromas, oils, that kind of thing. Makes a big difference, truly, physiologically. Do you surround yourself with objects of inspiration? Do you keep things in order and keep things simple? Do you have colors that you love that bring you energy? Some sense of water, air. I've been impressed that there's so many windows around here. Having contact with nature is extremely helpful in grounding us. There's a whole movement about nature deprivation in our society, and so can you bring things that are natural around you to help restore you? And really pay attention to cultivating that. And again, the attitude thing, cultivating an attitude of gratitude on purpose. Paying attention to those little things makes a huge difference. You also want to really attend to the emotional. A lot of times people tend to think like, oh, there's good feelings and bad feelings. But in fact, all feelings are okay. They're guiding us. They're our inner sense, our instinctual messaging system that's telling us what we need on some level. So we want to learn to attend to the feeling states with that mindfulness, that curiosity, that interest in ourselves. Like, oh, what am I feeling? How do I feel it in my body? You know, what's registering there? And then, you know, what is this about? We don't need to suppress it, and we don't need to act it out. As a matter of fact, if we try to act it out, you know, we're just like trashing somebody or yelling at them and telling them what for because I'm mad, so I've got to let my anger out. You're actually going to make it worse. You've contaminated, you haven't really released those feelings constructively, you haven't solved the problems, as you've actually generated more anger now. So you want to be very careful about what you do with your feelings, but suppressing it isn't going to, you know, it's not like the feeling's going to go away. That energy is still in your body. So I love this line about never waste a trigger. Remember what I said in the beginning about the amygdala is keyed up when you're under stress. It's going to automatically make you be sort of hyper-vigilant, hyper-reactive, and not in the most positive ways. You're more likely to perceive things with, you know, a negative twist, even if it's sort of benign, because you're stressed. You'll see things differently. So slow yourself down. Think it through. Or you shut down. You know, I can handle it. I don't need help. I'm not feeling this. You just numb out. Neither one of those is particularly helpful responses to coping with your emotions. You want to be with your emotions, cultivate that mindfulness. If you have unresolved issues, it's probably like heightened things, not just from what's going on in the here and now, but also other things. So what is it that you really need? What is it that you really want? Can you find some ways to take some steps to move in the direction that will help you take care of those issues more thoughtfully, more carefully, in a way that's not damaging to those around you? Any thoughts about that? Does this make sense, or is it like, sure, that sounds okay, or it doesn't make sense at all? What are people's reactions to that? Does it make sense that you're hyper-reactive? Did people notice that? Yeah.
You know, we've had a long time to sit and think about whether we're going to get laid off or not. And I found this trigger thing is funny because after a while, if you're harping on this negative thing, eventually you get sick of it. I mean, you can only do it for so long. And then you say, there must be another way of thinking about
Right,
this.
right. And to a certain degree, I mean, I think like part of the mindfulness is going, oh, okay, so I'm really harping on this and I can't let it go. And this is what it's like for me to be all up in a bunch and in all this angst, you know? And so, oh, but if you just keep saying like, this is it, this is how it is, this is the only way it's going to be, you do get sick of it. It doesn't solve the problem. That kind of negative energy exudes to your neighbors and, you know, just keeps the toxicity going. It's not helpful. You know, we're back to that thought again. And it's also not particularly accurate. You know, is there other ways that you could manage that feeling state? And in fact, I mean, you know, I think a lot of times out of chaos, I mean, we know from physics that out of chaos is creating a new order. And so can we remain open to finding out what is the deeper need? What is it that I really do need to take care of? And are there some ways of being compassionate with each other and supporting each other together as we move through this? That's a healthy response to this. Instead of falling apart into blaming, naysaying, talking about all the, you know, negatives, everybody else is responsible, but, you know, I don't have any responsibility in this. Well, everybody has a responsibility in what kind of environment is being created, what kind of emotionality. Are we supporting one another? Are we together in this? Can we figure out a way to care for one another with all of this reactivity and tension, this unknown? Or are we going to fall apart? Everybody blames everybody else, pushes somebody else under the bus to, you know, save me kind of mentality. we have choices that we're making about how we interact and what we do with this and whether it's going to be constructive or whether it's going to be harmful, about how we feel, about who we are in this situation, much less the whole culture. Did you have something?
Well, I just was thinking that another thing that's kind of doesn't come to the surface much is that, or sort of underpinning it, all of this, is that there's this great sadness that we're all going to have to say goodbye.
Yeah, that's huge, and thank you for saying that.
You know, and so I think sometimes when you're going to say goodbye to somebody, you create tension because it makes it easier to say goodbye, or to the place.
It's a lot easier to feel some power and anger than it is to feel the grief and the sadness, the loss that's there.
Yeah, the grief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to grieve.
And not only about our coworkers, but the industry itself.
Right, right. And what it means to you personally in your own life. This is who I am. This is how I've always been. I've worked all my life to find hone these skills, and now they're not valued. And who am I beyond that?
And it's also identity too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we, as we will, move on to different careers, it's not the same, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to replace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant by our being angry and feeling out of control. It's not like a job per se. It's a whole industry that's we feel is being mishandled.
Right.
You know, other people were in control. So that has, you know, it makes you feel angry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to sound at all like, oh, just gloss over the anger, it will be fine. You know, that's not true. And the anger is actually, it's a call of energy to protect yourself somehow, to protect what is of value. But it's how are you going to do that? You know, how will you use this anger to do something constructive with whatever mattered about this work, you know? And that's, I don't have a simple answer for you, but I think that's where the mind needs to go if you're going to do something that will actually bring some healthy resolution to the dilemma at hand, you know?
The other thing, not to go on, but
No,
is
please.
that, I noticed in myself that a certain sense of being disenfranchised, so that you don't know where to focus, because it's not like we know that we are going to be like, oh, we don't know. So you want to focus on your work, but you also are split in your concentration, and that's maddening. It's like, do I leave? Do I stay? You want to do a great job, you even want to do a better job than you did, but yet that's so much energy to do it. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
very difficult to make decisions about how to focus.
Yeah, especially when the brain, which is hardwired, is going bing, bing, bing. Scary. I can't think. I hope that the top managers here have some appreciation of how much you're attending to all of this. So. All right. But recognition alone will start to diffuse some of the intensity of the emotionality and, you know, help you define how you need to self-correct. Now, the last part that I wanted to talk about is that awareness is not enough, and you have to have more connection. And the connection is to yourself. You know, what kind of commitment will you make to yourself to take the steps that will really promote your health, will promote your best coping, your best step forward. You know, what are the barriers that will get in your way, and what, you know, brainstorming or figuring out some new creative solutions for how you might do that. But, and one of the things I'm sure you guys have been listening to, you know, all the self-help gurus that keep talking about with resolutions at the new year, you know, baby steps. Be realistic. Don't put yourself on some big, you know, regimen of like, oh, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to exercise more, and I'm going to get all my work done, you know, perfectly. So the boss is so impressed at the deadline, you know, before the deadline, even better, you know. But, you know, can you be patient with yourself? Can you at least get your sneakers out and think about walking out the door, and maybe the next day walk to the end of the drive, and the next day walk to the end of the block? Just little teeny steps that you can do that you actually will do, and seek support from other people to do it with you or to sustain you in what you're trying to do for yourself. But along with making this connection to yourself, it's the connection to others. And this is huge, and it's really hard when you're working in an environment where everybody's being touched by this painful reality, this uncertain, this insecure state that you're all in. But can you make a commitment to yourselves, your colleagues, the organizations that you work with, your friends, your partners and families at home? And you want to really create, we all are creating, period, whether we're taking responsibility for it or not. We're all creating the culture that we live in by our attitudes, by the choices we make. But that's even more true right now in this heightened time of stress and sort of this microcosm of like intense reality that you guys are all dealing with. What kind of culture, what kind of response are you guys creating together, individually and with each other? And so you need to actively and regularly get together with other people to buffer these challenges that you face. And you want to not just here, we normally tend to sort of be drawn to people that we resonate with, but outside of here, and really network with people, really choose the groups on purpose. And that's one of the values, in the old days, it was like your family was it, your neighbor was it. You didn't have a whole lot of choice about who did you hang out with, who were your associates, your friends. But in this day and age, we have so much access to so many different kinds of people. Who are the people that you're drawn to? What causes, what organizations, what missions matter to you? Constantly, consciously choosing the groups that we affiliate ourselves with. And we need to really shore those supports up. And now this could become another should. Oh, on top of everything else I've got to deal with now, I've got to be, extra good about sustaining friendships. But, if you can just make sure that you really are reaching out, really letting people know that you need help or you need support, or offering support to each other when you see that somebody's struggling, that somebody else is not coping so well today, somebody's snapping or saddened or whatever it is. Can you share this together? Because what you can share, you can bear, okay? Because when we choose groups like this, we can shower each other with encouragement when we need it, but we also can hold each other accountable for when we're falling short of how we're handling things, when we're not living up to our best selves. People will kind of call you on it, hopefully in a compassionate, caring way, but it's by choosing to do this together that you really start to shape the culture here and any place else in your life, and that's really what's going to kind of help you survive a situation like this, is your networks, your friends, your community. So the last part of this presentation, this training, is I wanted you to work together in groups and identify in your group ideas that you have right here and now that you could do to improve this work environment, despite the stress, despite the insecurity, despite, the challenge of really not knowing what's coming down the pike next. How could you improve your work environment so that it's a safe, and when I say safe, I mean emotionally safe place, a caring place for everyone. Where do you guys have some control about that? What small steps can be done to cultivate the culture that you want to work in, where you're having more fun, more beauty, more kindness, and honesty? And that's one of my favorite spiritual teachers talks about, there's only two things in life that you have to do, and that's to cultivate, it's Ram Dass, he says, you have to cultivate honesty and kindness. There be the rub, because it's hard to both be fully honest and kind, So I'd like you to just kind of work together in your table groups for less than maybe 5 minutes and just brainstorm. It doesn't matter at all what ideas you come up with, but just come up with some ideas about little realistic things you could do to support yourselves in this environment, to make the environment more tolerable. And then we'll talk about that. Were there any ideas that got generated right now, just in this brief time?
I don't know if it's improving our work environment. We were saying, since we're all three in the business department, which I sat next to Eileen, so I didn't sit up there, there. Marcia came in late, so she just came in this door. So we didn't like just naturally sit business together. But I think we're lucky because we all get along and we feel like we can be honest with each other and help cope. And if, you know, somebody's acting weird, we can talk. I can go to Marcia, I can go to Eileen, or really anybody else in the department probably, and say, you know, gosh, what is up with you? You know, I don't know if everybody here has that or not. So I think that's one thing that we've done in business. We've become, you know, kind of closer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well it's going to help us in the end, but at least on an interim basis, and the fact that Marcia and I sit right next to each other, and if we're grumpy or pissed about something, you know, we can talk. That helps me. I assume it helps you.
See, I would say,
Control, in terms of eviction control, about gaining some sense of control, even by some of the people who had helped put this together, for instance, that was great, you know.
mm-hmm.
That was good.
Yeah, and one of the things I would say is a gift that can come out of this is you can use it to bond even more closely, more honestly and authentically than you might have under other circumstances. By the same token, though, I would challenge that. I think there's a lot to be said for, you know, somebody's like really giving you a hard time, or, you know, and you got to go vent with your coworkers. But I would also challenge that whoever is the person that's creating the extra stress, you know, because they're more snippy or they're more demanding or whatever it is they're doing that's, you know, problematic, is to recognize that they too are under stress. They're doing the best they can do. Is there some way to extend a kindness to them despite the attitude? And, you know, maybe care about them with whatever their reactivity is too. And that's a big challenge. So any other thoughts?
Debbie has a little program she started of walking every Sunday, right? And a lot of people don't go, but knowing that you can, if you're trying to you're trying to lose some weight or something.
It's that first step.
She provides a really easy place where you can take the first step when you're ready to do it.
Right, yeah. And it's a realistic thing, and it's small, and it's there. And you're more likely to do it than if it's not there. And if everybody does a little bit of that, you know, you're more likely to, you know, just any other things that anybody else wants to share?
Well, I was complaining, it's a long-standing complaint that I don't think there are a lot of good places in this building, even though it's new, good employee-type spaces where you can get together and talk or do anything. And the suggestion was that we take more control over the areas outside the elevators, like on the second floor, and that maybe we be more proactive in using that lousy little lounge that's down the first floor. You know, in other words, use the space that we have and not be afraid to claim it, even the space out here,
Yeah.
which is usually empty.
Yeah, and really maybe bring some of your personal elements or just the arrangement of the furniture or whatever. You know, you can make small shifts that might make it more conducive to hanging out with each other for a few minutes to commiserate or just be there with each other. I really liked your point about sort of the grieving aspect of this. And one of the things, you know, just some food for thought, I was thinking about 9/11 and Katrina, you know, terrible, terrible stressors, traumas. And in 9/11, if you think back, the community response to that was, it was like triage. I mean, everybody brought everything to the table about how can we unify? How can we deal with whatever this tragedy is that's at hand together? Everybody bringing what they have to offer, in making the best use of whatever resources we have, even if it's not enough. But there was a real collaboration and a huge support over the grief process. It wasn't just like, oh, you shouldn't grieve, you know, just move on. It was like truly, truly caring and honoring the loss that was at hand so that people could move forward, could transform this event in their lives. In Katrina, there was this huge breakdown of, you know, who was responsible for what, and everybody finger pointing and blaming one another, and nobody really stepping up to the plate and offering some leadership and some unification so that people could heal. And there really wasn't any grieving. It was like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and like, why aren't you getting over this by now? Which means those people who are most effective really can't heal from that kind of event in their lives. And so I would challenge you to think along those lines. Are you going to be a 9/11 type of response? It's a healthy response to a terrible situation, or Are you going to be more like Katrina, where you fall apart, you have your little cliques, and you do a lot of finger pointing and blaming of other people, and everybody else is at fault? Or, you know, do you look where you can have some control and do something different and support each other, bond together with the grief, with the sadness, with the anger, but in a constructive way, not just perseverating and going, oh, woe is us, you know, the world's really a crappy place, and, you know, end of story. So take care of yourselves, the basics. And I really, you know, want you to go home and try the inverted pose, see how it feels. I'm sure you'll feel better, and I hope I gave you some little bit of food for thought, you know, something. So, thank you. I also really want to thank you for your work. I love the PD. That's why I'm here today. It's like I feel so bad about, you know, that people have, you know, for whatever reason, our society isn't valuing the work you guys do. But I love what you produce. I love what you put out. Every morning, my husband and I, that's our ritual, is going through the PD and looking at the locals, looking at the national. I love the cartoons, you know. Got to read Dear Abby so I know how to advise my clients, you know. So thank you. Thank you for your work. All right.